Guys, it's Testimony Tuesday, and today I'm bringing you a testimony from the farm. So it's not really my personal testimony, but you know, growing up on a farm, I feel like you see the most of what God can do. It's a wonderful experience, and even now that I don't live there physically, I'm still getting to reap the benefits of seeing these things. So I was talking to my dad this morning. He was telling me about an incident that happened last night. Essentially, my cousin was driving down the road and I don't know if he witnessed it in action or if he just happened to drive by the scene and see what had happened, but somebody had hit a cow somewhere near our neighborhood, and it was a black cow. We have black and white cows, and it was dark, it was really late, and so my cousin couldn't really identify the cow itself, but he called to let us know, like, hey, somebody hit a cow. And so my dad got up, he got dressed, he went to check on the cows, make sure everyone was accounted for, make sure none of the fences are broken, things like that. And it's always really scary when somebody tells you that a cow has been hit, because so first and foremost, it's like somebody telling you that your dog has been hit, right? Like you would be panicked. You'd be like, "Oh my gosh, my dog is dead." And so you worry about the cows and their safety, but you also worry about everything else because a cow is a large animal. Our cows weigh roughly 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. If you run into that, your car is not surviving. A person could be injured. The car is probably totaled. But then from a liability standpoint, this is America. You know good and well, if a person hits your cow, they're gonna sue you. They're gonna say that you were negligent or whatever, and it's hard because you can put a fence up, and generally our cows are very docile. They don't break out. They're not aggressive cattle, but at the same time, like I said, they're huge animals. Unless you put a brick wall there, if they just lean on the fence or if they get spooked and go running, they're going straight through the fence. You're not gonna stop them. um and so you worry about things like that. So my dad's in a panic and he's going, and then of course, if they have gotten out, it's the middle of the night. We have series of pastures for this particular instance, in this particular case, to make sure that we don't see issues. But you can't really fix a fence in the middle of the night. So if there's a hole in the fence and the cows have gotten out, you got to push them back in. you, are you gonna go to Lowe's at 11 o'clock at night and buy new boards to build a fence? No. And you don't want them to get out further to cause more damage and things like that. Like I said, luckily we have multiple pastures, so if that was the case, you would just lock them into a subsection of the pasture so that they couldn't get to the place where the hole is. But in general, like I said, when people call in the middle of the night and tell you that a cow has been hit or they've seen a cow standing on the side of the road or something, there's like panic. You're like, oh goodness, let's, everybody, all hands on deck. Like, we might be going through the woods looking for cows. What's about to happen? So my dad rushes over, starts counting cows. They're all there. And so he's happy. They're all there. All the fences look good. No damage, And so he's walking around counting the cows, and he gets to the bull. And the bull had broken a fence. He wasn't the dead cow. He didn't make it out of like our farm, but he had broken a fence in his own pasture and ended up in the loading stall. So we have this thing where you put a single cow, and the purpose of this holding pen or this loading stall, whatever you want to call it, one is to separate a cow out so that you can, for instance, like if you needed to give them medicine or something like that, you can put them in a very confined space. And then also if you need to load them onto the trailer, so if you're loading them to sell them, if you're loading them to take them to the vet, whatever, we have this ramp. And it's very small, it's very narrow. There's like a ramp to make them walk up into the trailer. It's not a comfortable position at all. But he had managed to get himself in there and got stuck. So he was stuck in the loading stall. And if the other cow, this random cow that belonged to some other farm, if it had not gotten hit, and if my cousin hadn't driven by and seen it, my dad would not have gone back to check on the cows until in the morning. So our bull would have been stuck in this loading stall all night. He wouldn't have been able to get to his food. He wouldn't have been able to get to his water. He wouldn't have been able to lay down. That would have been a very, very uncomfortable night for him. And to be honest, at some point, he probably would have gotten frustrated and rambunctious, and he might have destroyed the whole loading cell because he might have panicked and started, bucking and kicking. And then he probably would have broken other boards and other fences. And then he might have gotten out, but he would have been like out. So it was one of those things where it's like, wow, nothing is coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. My dad even said himself, he was like, man, God works in mysterious ways, because I wouldn't have thought to go check on them. And I wouldn't have known that this was happening. And so it's one of those things where, when things happen to us personally, sometimes things are a false alarm. People are telling you things and you're like, that's not an issue. But when you go to confront that issue, make sure you're looking at everything, because a false alarm might actually lead you to see a real problem. And what I mean is, like, for instance, somebody might tell you that somebody in your life is no good. And you may be like, nah, they're good. That's not what was happening. But when you go to check out this thing over here, you may notice that something's not right over there with this other person or something like that. I'm just trying to think of off the top of my head an example, but it essentially, I feel like this happens a lot, is that something that really doesn't necessarily apply to you causes you to reevaluate or check on things in your own life that leads you to realize something is wrong, that you need to fix. And so I think that it's a good lesson in general to take away, is that, like I said, just because something's a false alarm in this area doesn't mean you can just let it go. Like, my dad could have just cursory, okay, I see the bull, I see these cows, okay, they're all there. It's not my cow, not my problem. I'm going to leave. But he chose to walk closer in and actually look them in the face and be like, okay, you're good. Okay, you're good, but you should not be. Why are you right there? You shouldn't be right there. And then only by closer examination did he figure out that this cow was not where he was supposed to be and be able to fix that problem too. So make sure you're attentive when you try to check out warnings and alarm bells as you're going about your day or your life. So that's the testimony I wanted to share with you guys. As always, leave me a comment about what God has been doing in your life, and I will see you next week.